Welcome back. This is Jackie Hauser with Flexner Hauser Injury Law and our podcast, Laughter in the Law, where we talk about the law with a lighthearted twist. And today we're talking about cybersecurity with one of our local vendors here in Wilmington. If you're watching from outside Wilmington, I bet they can still service you, but they do a great job for us. And so we're talking with Robbie Garner of ACS here in Wilmington, which stands for
Atlantic Computer Services.
There we go. I didn't want to mess that up because I would have thrown in some other S in there. I knew Atlantic Computer. But I just know you from help at than the help email address. We're going to talk to Robbie about cybersecurity and artificial intelligence. He's the guru. He's the one to go to for that. But let me first of all say that ACS is one of our vendors. They provide IT services for our firm. We're going to talk about that a little bit in our discussion. And I highly recommend them. Can't give them enough stars. They are really excellent in what they do. And so, Robbie, tell me a little bit about how you came to be in this field.
Well, Jackie, thanks for the opportunity to sit here and chat with you today. I love these opportunities to talk about IT and cybersecurity. I went to UNCW, and they had a business degree there that was focused more on information security or information services at the time. Right. That really piqued my interest. And so when I graduated, I worked for a local company that we did support for Bald Head Island. That was a very interesting job. I got exposure to a lot of different things. And then ultimately, I left and went to work for a small manufacturing company here in Wilmington and worked there for 10 years, and really got exposure to IT and business and how important it is for all companies. Mm-hmm. I then had the opportunity to start a business, or I bought Atlantic Computer Services at the time back in 2006, and I was able to continue on my job with the local manufacturing company. So I kind of took a leap of faith, I guess. And here we are 20 years later.
So you are the expert and the guru. 20 years, that's awesome. Well, now we use you, and you've done great work for us, like I said, as many stars as we can give. Tell me, though, who would be the ideal client for Atlantic Computer Services?
Well, we have two target clients. One is a smaller to medium-sized company, probably 50 users or less, where we are their IT department. And we take care of all their technology needs, including cybersecurity, help desk. We have the ability to buy and manage hardware. We help them strategically plan for IT. Maybe they're opening new offices or whatever the case may be. We can help them down that road. So we truly are their IT department, and that's the level of relationship that we're looking for. The second target is a larger company that has internal IT staff. Maybe they have one or two people on their team. Maybe the company is growing quickly and those two can't keep up, or maybe there's some specialty that they need a little more assistance with. So we're able to come in and basically be a resource for their IT department. Mm-hmm. We're very specifically not there to take over those IT jobs. We are there as their resource. So that's a great relationship for the company and for us. Yeah. So that works really well. We enjoy those types of opportunities as well.
So in other words, I can never outgrow you.
Yeah, I hope not. I would like to see. I'd like for you to try. Let's see if we can work together to grow. But yeah.
Well, all those things that you describe for those small firms, that you do all those things for us. I mean, the hardware, the servers, and the cybersecurity, which is so important to us because we have this duty, and I take it very seriously, to maintain our client confidentiality. And so I know you work with other firms and other businesses that have the same type of requirements in their professions. What do you think is the most important thing with regard to this protection through cybersecurity that these law firms and other professions need to follow?
Well, I think a lot of cases. So first of all, kudos for you for understanding that there's more to IT and cybersecurity than just installing an antivirus program. I would say that's one thing that folks really need to understand is that the level of support, the level of expertise needed to protect all avenues of attack, these days are pretty significant. It's very difficult for someone not experienced in cybersecurity to protect the business. If I was a solo practitioner or I had a small firm, that would be key to understand. Just like, your client shouldn't represent themselves in court. That would be a very similar perspective, I think, from the security world.
Yeah. Off camera, before we went on, I told you about a friend of mine who has a small firm like me. She's a sole practitioner. She has one employee, and she's been attacked twice. How often do you see that happening? We think it happens like the big Vegas attack a couple of years ago, but how often do you see that happening in small firms?
Well, I think I think we had a brief discussion there. These attackers are very intelligent people. Mm-hmm. So, we're not talking about a kid in a basement anymore.
Right.
We are talking about a business, in a country that they're in a high-rise building with cubicles. I mean, this is an operation. This is a sophisticated operation. So they are attacking people who they know are vulnerable. So maybe a small firm, they would think that wouldn't have some of these protections in place. Also, this is changing a little bit, but a few years back, it was the conversation around security was, well, I really don't have data that's important, or, why would they want to attack me, or, why would they come after me? Well, I think the important point to that is they're not attacking you individually. They're looking for opportunity. It's nothing. It's just like in a neighborhood, lifting car door handles. It's the same kind of a thing.
Oh, good example. Yeah.
Eventually, they're going to find a car or a network or whatever that's open, and they're going to take advantage of it.
What about the argument of, well, all my stuff's in the cloud, so it's protected?
Well, that's a great question there. The cloud is a very important tool for businesses these days. Mm-hmm. Typically, especially for a small company, the cloud is going to be a more secure place for storing data than local computers. But you have to get data there. You take data out of the cloud. How is all that set up in a way that you protect your client's data? So again, there's no simple, just do this and you're safe, or just do that and you're safe. It's a combination of everything. So a lot of folks are very leery of the cloud, and for good reason. Right. It's kind of something that most people don't understand. Yeah. But you have the ability to take advantage of features that larger companies may have a budget for, where you're able to do it, on a smaller level.
Well, I know you preach to us a lot in the emails we get and the educational stuff that we get about, we can put stuff in the cloud, but there's still, if you give somebody access, if somebody gets your password, right, if you click on the wrong link and something's downloaded on your system, then now the bad guys have access to your cloud.
Yeah, that's right. And business email compromise is the biggest.
That's the fancy word for it.
That's the biggest risk for all companies, not just law firms. But when you have poorly protected, especially if you're in the Microsoft Office 365 environment, which most people probably are, and in my opinion, probably should be, if that's not set up and protected properly, it's very easy for these attackers to get access to your OneDrive data, to your email. That really is kind of the way in right at the moment, the most popular way, I guess, that folks are getting in. But you're right, that all has to be secured.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very scary to think about. One click can just change your world and shut you down. Like I said, I've seen I haven't seen huge law firms. I'm sure it's happened, but I've just seen little small law firms attacked. Right, and it's just so concerning.
In the cybersecurity world, there's this concept of social engineering, and like I said earlier, these people are very smart people. So they know ways to manipulate you and your employees to make you feel like or to get you to do things for them. It could be as a phishing email, click this link, or a pop-up that says call this number for support, kind of a thing. And on one perspective, you look at that and you say to yourself, well, I'll never, that'll never trick me, or whatever the case may be. But what if it happens when you're in the middle of, a busy day, or, you're getting ready to walk out of the office and something pops up? So they are very intuitive on how to, how to get you to do things that they want you to do. And that's very difficult for technology to stop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's no longer the prince in Nigeria who wants to send you $2 million, right?
That's
I mean,
exactly right.
it's a lot more
That's right.
professional than that, and very, anybody can be deceived if you're not careful.
Exactly.
Yeah. And one thing we are very concerned about in the legal profession is, our ethics and protecting our clients as ethically as possible, and protecting their data, and especially their protected data, like their names, addresses. But we do a lot here whenever we do personal injury and workers' comp, we always have people's medical records. We actually, for our cybersecurity policy, we split those. And so anybody that works in personal injury can't see workers' comp, and anybody that works in workers' comp can't see personal injury without special permissions on our system. You guys helped us set that up as well. And so, we've thought that was important. How do you see this cybersecurity as an extension of that ethical duty to protect clients' data?
Well, first of all, I think it's important to realize that law firms are somewhat of a one-stop shop for criminals, right? Because there's health information, there's personal identifiable information.
Right.
So it's a bit of a target-rich environment, right? So understanding what you have, understanding that you could have medical records on local computers and things like that is a great first step. A lot of companies don't take a step back and look at, okay, what might I have, or how should we set up our security to address these things? So, I mean, that's a great first step to really getting a handle on what you need.
Yeah.
And then being able to communicate that to partners like ACS or other MSPs that can help you get protections in place.
Yeah, it is concerning. When we were preparing for this session this morning, I started thinking about all the things that we have. Just like you mentioned, I mean, sure, I have names and dates of birth, but I have Social Security numbers here. Sometimes I have people's tax returns,
Right.
business returns. I have their income information. I have their paychecks or pay stubs. And then on top of all of that, their entire medical history could be just sitting in my file.
Yep.
And so it's a very serious thing. And it can be daunting if you think about all the things that you need to protect that way.
That's right. And of all those different types of information, there's also different ways that people, that attackers can get to that information. And one of the key points I'd like to get across today is that the idea of security has to be set up in layers. Right. There's not one thing to install.
That's a good point. Yeah.
So when we come in and work with a company like your firm and other businesses we work with, we're installing 7 or 8 different security-based applications to protect the environment. So it really is a proactively managed system to protect data from all fronts.
So what are the common ways that hackers would try to infiltrate our system or a system like ours?
Sure. So we talked about it earlier. Business email compromise is the biggest way.
One?
That's the number one way right now. So securing your Office 365 environment is like drop what you're doing right now and go work on that.
Yeah.
It's at that level. Secondly, this kind of goes hand in hand, but MFA, everybody understands multi-factor authentication, or I hope everybody does at this point. But any system that you log into to conduct any type of business, bank accounts, obviously insurance, anything, you've got to have MFA set up. On your email, you have to have MFA set up. Microsoft actually says that probably the number one thing you can do is to put MFA on your email system. And
it's amazing the percentages, just like 90% or more, 95% maybe, where you can stop an attack just with that, right?
That's exactly right. It is that important. So we still see, prospects that come into us that still don't have MFA set up on their important account, their important systems, email, their domain for their website, everything. So those are the two biggest things for sure. If you have local servers, how you access those servers remotely is something that you want to think about. You need to have some type of a VPN solution in place to protect yourself. And then the other thing that I would say that is probably just as important these days is end user training. That really is, one of the top 2 or 3 things that you should do if you're a larger firm that have a few employees. how are you training those employees to notice phishing emails, what to do when they think that they may have been compromised or they have a question about something? If you think of a manufacturing company, right, all the forklift drivers have to have a forklift certification.
Right.
But the office employees in that environment really have no obligation.
Right.
So you really have to think of security kind of the same way. How are you going to train your folks to notice phishing emails? How are you going to train them to who do they call when something happens? All those kind of things are very important and something that most firms should spend a little time trying to put together.
So if you were on a call with a new client today and you needed to tell them there are 3 most important things they needed to do, and I think you just kind of went through them, but multi-factor, you think that's in the top 3?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then if they're using Office 365, to make sure they have those protections installed.
That's right. And the other thing, so phishing emails that's part of this business email compromise thing. That's the primary way, not the only way, but that's the primary way folks are getting compromised these days. There are tools that you can put in place in your email system to cut down on that significantly. In your domain where you set up your MX record for your emails, there's things called SPF records. There's other records that you can put in place to help prevent those spam emails, spoofing, in other words.
Right.
So it looks like you just received an email from yourself, right? But it didn't. It came from somewhere else. It just looks like it came from you.
Yeah.
There are some tools and things that you can put in place that are absolutely free that you can put in place to significantly cut down on some of that stuff.
Okay. So the business compromise emails, the multi-factor, the Office 365, making sure it's protected. Anything else? Just that on a call with a client, you'd say, we need to make sure you have this.
That's right. And we would want to spend a little bit of time with them, helping them to understand those layers of protection and why it would be important to manage that on a proactive basis.
Yeah.
But the issues that we just discussed there, that email security piece, MFA, securing Office 365, user training, those are all things that definitely you want to be addressing.
Yeah. And I know beyond that, that's just the initial conversation. I know from personal experience, you then come in, you assess the system.
That's right.
You tell us, what needs to be done to protect us, to make sure that our boat doesn't have a hole in it.
That's right.
And, and then we go from there. So
we have tools that we can do some vulnerability scans to see what's missing. And that would give us some, kind of a quick playbook on what we need to do in the short term. If we were to come on board, we're happy to do those assessments. They don't necessarily always lead to, continuing service, but a firm of any size, I would highly recommend a vulnerability scan just to see what's there. And, it could be just another set of eyes, basically.
Yeah.
We recently had this was just a few months ago, we had a local home services company call us, and they were in the middle of a cyber attack.
Oh.
And so I was on the phone with them and trying to understand, what was happening. This was a business email compromise. So kind of the basic playbook here. The hackers got into their email system and was able to intercept invoices they had going out, and they changed the payee information on those invoices. So the way that this client found out they had an issue was when a client made a payment that didn't come to them. In that case, it was a $15,000 payment. So that $15,000 was gone. They found this, or they figured out they had a problem. So they reached out to their other clients to ask them to stop making payments for temporarily. And they stopped a $250,000 payment.
Wow.
So that's company changing money at that point, right?
Wow.
So we were able to come in. Honestly, it wasn't like we had to do a whole lot. We were able to deploy our tools, and just deploying our tools stopped the attack. And we've got a client for life. So those are the kind of cool stories. Unfortunately, things like that happen.
Yeah.
But the point is, you've got to find a partner to work with that you can trust. You can't wait for attacks to happen,
Right.
because you're going to lose a lot of money.
Because it could have been prevented.
Absolutely. Easily could have been prevented.
Yeah.
Now, a home service company, you know, probably don't have a whole lot of regulations around cybersecurity that they're having to adhere to.
Mm-hmm.
There are some, but very minimal.
Yeah.
But turn that into a medical practice or a law firm or maybe a CPA practice.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, that becomes much more serious, right?
Mm-hmm.
So don't wait for the problem. Let's get in front of it.
Mm-hmm.
I have another interesting story. It kind of goes back to that social engineering piece.
Yeah.
This was actually a few years ago. One of my larger companies hired an employee. She was brand new, and she went to a website or whatever, and it popped up a screen. It said, "Hey, you've got an issue. Call this number." She was brand new on the job. She didn't want to tell her boss that she had a problem with her computer, so she called the number, right? And so that let the hacker right into their system.
Oh.
There was not as many sophisticated tools as there are today, so that happened. The point to that story is just that, you know, that user training piece really, really is important. You can spend thousands of dollars, tens of thousands of dollars on technology, and you're still susceptible to an end user maybe doing something they shouldn't do.
Yeah.
So those are a couple of ones that came to mind.
So with all this data that we have for our clients here, and with your business to support and keeping all of this stuff safe and secure and keeping us up and running as well. So you definitely wear more than just cybersecurity here in our office. But can you tell, if you were talking to one of my clients, what would you tell them that we're doing to keep their data safe?
First of all, you're aware. So your firm is very aware of the potential issues related to security.
Mm-hmm.
So you've engaged with a professional IT company to come in and make sure that you're crossing all your T's and dotting your I's, so to speak. You know, there never is a silver bullet in the IT world. There's never one thing that we can do to guarantee, unfortunately, that you know, that there will never be a compromise. But boy, you're doing an awful lot of stuff, right? Mm-hmm. And I think that's an important point to make, is that if you were a medical practice, for example, and there was a compromise, they would come in, and if you were being negligent, in other words, maybe you didn't have MFA in place, or, you know, you were just kind of phoning it in when it comes to security in your practice, you would be fined very significantly because you weren't properly addressing security. Mm-hmm. So, you know, you can't just wait for something to happen. You really have to be proactive. And I would tell your clients that, you know, your firm is very into this, and you understand the potential, and you're doing, you know, almost everything possible to prevent that from happening from a technology perspective.
Right, right. I love your example of a silver bullet, because there is, you know, we only have to fail once.
That's right.
And it doesn't mean that we did anything wrong. It's just one person clicked one thing, or, you know,
exactly,
one thing went wrong, and
it's a game we play, right?
Yeah.
The bad guys are always looking for something unknown vulnerability that they can exploit, and then the good guys are always right there, you know, plugging a hole.
Yeah.
And so there's that game is going to continue forever.
You've been doing this 20 years, at least. You've been with you've had ACS 20
That's
years.
Right.
What do you see for the next maybe 5 to 10 years with cybersecurity? Are there any things that you see on the horizon that may be changing, or what's happening?
So you're probably not going to be surprised with my answer here, but AI is huge in the cybersecurity.
We're going to talk about that.
That's right. AI is huge in the cybersecurity world. You know, I just mentioned the bad guys are always looking for vulnerabilities. They exploit them, and then the good guys kind of come in and they patch those vulnerabilities. Well, there's a span of time there. Traditionally, that span of time could have been weeks or months. With AI in place, that span of time, you know, it shrinks significantly. So instead of us having to wait to get an update to our antivirus programs to be able to plug this vulnerability, AI has the ability to say, hey, something doesn't look right here. Let me block this stuff until we can get verification.
Oh, wow.
So we actually already have some of those tools in place. So that side of the business is really gonna explode. That's the future of security, I think. So that's the big thing there. And then there's always going to be a need for, there's always going to be a need for IT support, help desk work. All those things are going to be in place, but AI is going to enhance them significantly. And then, which we'll talk about more, but how firms can use AI in a safe way to be able to take advantage of some obvious advantages that it has.
Yeah. So AI is just
pretty much.
I think that's on everybody's mind. So I look forward to talking about that and learning more, because I'm
right.
telling you, it's just like drinking from a fire hose about that.
It is.
And the cybersecurity stuff, I don't drink from the fire hose. I just trust you guys to take care of it. And we do our part over here. And, and we certainly try to make sure that we don't have any human error on our part to cause any problems. But, you talking so much about protecting clients' data and that stuff. And we've sat around this table with, I could probably say thousands of clients now. No one has ever, whenever I say, hey, have you got any questions for me? No one has ever asked me, how do you protect my data?
That really is surprising, isn't it? I mean, because
it is.
That your information is, that's the basis of all you have, right?
Yeah.
It's a great question. I would love for prospects to sit in front of me and say, okay, tell me specifically about your security tools and how they work.
Yeah.
People want to know that we have security tools, but they don't. I'm not asked those questions either, believe it or not. I think we have an obligation to, to explain to them why we set things up a certain way and why we think this product may be better than another product. And then when we sit down occasionally, to review technology for you guys, it's important that we take some time and we explain the stuff that's going on in the background, because as time moves forward, more and more of the work we do, you don't necessarily see, but it doesn't mean that the work's not being done. So it's important for companies like us and maybe for you as well to look. Here's some things that you need to know about. Here's one of the reasons why my practice may be different than the practice down the road, or whatever the case may be.
Well, you've just described a law firm perfectly. We do a lot of work that nobody ever sees. And then we get a call that says, what's going on in my file? Oh, my gosh. So you just to see, I understand cybersecurity and what you do so much better, because we're over here, our feet are paddling underneath, and we look like on the pond, we're just gliding.
That's right.
So I appreciate you so much talking to us about this today. I'm always... cybersecurity is just kind of a nerdy thing that I kind of watch. I'm on the outside. I'm not on the inside. But all these attacks and malware and everything, it always piques my interest. Thank you so much for tuning in today to Laughter in the Law. Thank you, Robbie, for being here. And we hope you'll tune in next time.